Hello Internet and welcome to the very first tutorial of 2025. As the saying goes, new year, new me, and as a music producer, new me usually means new plugins, new sounds, and new inspiration. I mean, we want to make great music in 2025. So I thought to myself, what could be a better way than starting the year with my top 3 free synthesizers that I actually use and give you this little boost of inspiration and new sounds to start the year with. So without further ado, here's my list of free synthesizers in no particular order, and by the way, they all work on both Mac and Windows, so there's no excuses in here. Now that said, let's jump to this tutorial. Our first up is the Tal Noisemaker. It's one of the very first free synthesizers that I've knew about and actually made it to my tracks. It's a virtual analog synthesizer that is designed to create gritty and dirty sounds. I mean, just check this FM out. Let's take the square in here and just crank that FM knob. The juiciness of this FM is just something else. I use the Tal Noisemaker in my tracks to add this analog dirty vibe, especially when I'm too lazy to turn on my analog synthesizers, because it doesn't take a lot of CPU and it just gives you this dirty sound that you're expecting from an analog synthesizer. With it, you have a couple of oscillators with basic shapes, saw, square, and noise for the first one. For the second one, same shapes, but we will add the triangle and the sine oscillators. It can do FM, as you just heard, and ring modulation, so it gives you a wide range of timbre to play with. We have a couple of really simple LFOs with one destination each and the bread and butter LFO shapes, so sine, triangle, saw, square, sample and hold, and noise. Filter-wise, it comes with only one filter, but it's super flexible. It has many flavors to choose from, and it just sounds awesome. I mean, just check this out. Let's turn off the FM, close the filter, give it some resonance. Listen to this filter. Let's take the saw instead of the square. Sounds amazing and dirty right from the start. There's no effects in here. So for the filter, we have a really simple ADSR envelope to control it. Same for the amp envelope. And we have a simple attack decay modulation envelope that we can route to one destination. So filter, oscillator pitches, PWM, and FM. It has, just like Serum, a LFO that you can draw. Like this, you can add as many nodes as you want, and you can control the shape of these nodes with these handles, just like so. Effects-wise, we have a Juno 60-like chorus, we have a bit crusher, a really nice sounding reverb, actually reminds me of Serum. By the way, Serum's reverb was designed by Tal, so you can hear some similarities with these reverbs. And we have a functioning delay. To end the synthesizer, we have a little control center in here with velocity routing to volume, contour, cutoff, pitch wheel routing to either to cutoff or the pitch, calibration section with some high passing, master high pass. You can add some analog detuning in here. You can add some noise to make it grittier, and you can add a really nice distortion right from the calibration settings in here. So the first sound that comes to my mind to create on these type of synthesizers is a squelch. So let's take the first oscillator in here, set the tuning to 0 like so. Let's keep it on saw. Let's turn off the sub oscillator. Now let's take the first LFO, set it to sample and hold. Let's sync it and let's trigger it. So every time it receives a new note, it's going to restart its cycle from 0. Let's set the rate in here to 1/8. You can check the screen in here for the values. See, 1, 2, 1/4, 1/8. And now let's make it modulate the oscillator 1 pitch. Let's crank it all the way up, and now we have this. Sounding good so far. Now let's take the filter in here. Let's set it to bandpass 12 to start with. Let's give it some resonance, and let's listen to this filter. Wow, this is sounding really, really good. I want to make the squelch grittier. For that, let's take the 80 envelope in here and let's route it to the oscillator 1 pitch. And now let's set the amount somewhere in here. And now with a simple random arpeggiator, we'll get this. Check this out. So what I'm going to do in here, I'll take a random modulator from Bitwig. I'll set it to sample and glide and a rate of 1 and 4, like this, quarter note. And I'm going to set the trigger to synchronize, so it's synced to the grid. And I'm going to make it modulate the amount of this AD envelope, just like so. Maybe it's modulating way too much. Let's control the modulation a bit less. I'm going to set it to something like this. That's really nice. Now let's add some distortion from the calibration in here. And maybe we're going to add some release from the amp envelope. You know what we can do? Add another random modulator and use this random modulator to modulate the release of the amp envelope. And now we have this. And now, if we'll add some kick and bass and some delay, we'll get this result. You can see what the Tile Noisemaker is by now. It's a modern virtual analog synthesizer. What Tile did in here is that they've kept it true to the original vibe of the 70s analog synthesizer, gave it the same kind of grittiness, but kept it as flexible as you would expect from a plugin. For me, this is the plugin to add the analog dirtiness your track might need, and it's completely free. Our next up is Surge XT, one of the most advanced yet underrated synthesizers out there. And honestly, looking at its interface, I can understand why it went under the radar for many. But trust me, once you get over its GUI, you will open Pandora's box of psychedelic sound design. And not even only psychedelic sound design, just sound design all in all. So Surge XT consists of two scenes or two layers, A and B, that run simultaneously. Each layer has 3 oscillators. Each oscillator comes with the classic bread and butter VA sounds, a couple of wavetable oscillators. Actually, each one of them modulates the wavetable in a different way, so we'll get different timbres from the same wavetables. You have the kind of traditional DX7 style FM engines in here, and alongside those traditional or more traditional engines, you have some unorthodox engines that you usually find on Eurorack modules, like the String, which is a physical modeling oscillator, and the Twist, which is the engine of the Plates module of mutable instruments. So basically, you're getting the sound of some famous Eurorack modules with the flexibility and the synthesis power of Surge, this is huge for a free synthesizer. Filter-wise, we have a couple of filters that you can route in serial or in parallel. You know how much I love these kind of synthesizers. Each filter has a lot of flavors to choose from, and each flavor or filter type, let's say the 24 dB bandpass filter, has different saturation types. So here we have standard, driven, and clean. And if you want to get a closer look at what the filter shape looks like, you can click on this little button here, and it's going to show you exactly what the shape looks like. So this is the clean one, this is the driven one, and this is, no, that was the standard one, this is the driven one, and this is the clean one. And those filter sounds so good. Just check this out. This is the low pass filter, and this is the band pass filter. This is the standard band pass filter. Wow. Let's go to the modulation matrix, apply some modulation to these filters, and just hear them in action. So this is the band pass. The grittiness of this filter, and this is the low pass. You can already hear the potential of just a saw wave and a filter inside of Surge. I mean, this juiciness of the filters, man. Modulation-wise, I can't think of any synthesizer that tops Surge. We have 12 LFOs. Each LFO can be a classic traditional LFO with, the classic bread and butter shapes, basically sine, triangle, square, saw, noise. Basically, this is sample and glide, sample and hold, and we can use it as an envelope in here. Check this out. We have an attack, hold, decay, sustain, release envelope with delay. I forgot about the delay. We can use it as a step sequencer, like so. We have a function generator, just like so. We can draw basically our modulation envelope like so, change the curves the way we like. We can loop it, use it as an envelope or as an LFO. You can see the flexibility in here. And if you're into the geeky side of things, we have the voice formula where you can actually write exactly the function that you want. You can code it. And this is, wow, this is huge for a synthesizer. I mean, the depth of modulation of the synthesizer is beyond imagination. You can literally do whatever you want with it. And on top of that, it sounds really good. Check this out. You can hear the potential of darker psychedelic sound design using Surge. What I like about Surge is that it offers a lot of flexibility in routing the audio the way you like inside of it. So basically, it offers a lot of possibility to shape the sound. See, in this configuration, I have the filters in parallel that goes into the wave shaper, which you find in here. But if I don't want that, we can send only filter number 1 to the wave shaper. If I don't like that, we can set them in serial. And there's different types of serial configuration where the second filter goes into the feedback loop, because you can create a feedback loop inside of Surge. So you can see the flexibility, it's offering and the possibilities that you can get out of it. And another thing that I really like about it, and you rarely see in other synthesizers, is that, for instance, you can add FM in here. In the case of this patch, there's no FM, but we can add it, for example, from oscillator 2 to oscillator 1. And at the same time, you can add some ring modulation, and you can add the raw sound of the oscillators without them being ring modded. You know what I mean? This synthesizer for a sound designer is like heaven, and on top of that, it's free. How about we listen to some other patches? This is just a glimpse of what Surge is capable of doing. If you want to dive deeper in it, please leave me a comment down in the comment section, and I'll make sure I'll make more tutorials about it. If you want to support the channel, you can consider becoming a Patreon, and you will get all of the presets that we've heard and made in this tutorial. Or you can use the like, comment, subscribe, or the super thanks button on YouTube. Things like that helps the channel a lot. And if you want to learn more about sound design and Psytrance sequencing, you can check my masterclasses and preset packs on my Gumroad and new website, link down in the description. Now, that said, let's continue the tutorial. The last stop in this tutorial, and if you've been following my work, this shouldn't be a surprise for you, it's OsteIris, the free DSP emulator of the Virus TI synthesizer. Now, I'm in love of this synthesizer, and I've been trying to emulate its sound and workflow on every other synthesizer that I had used, especially on this channel. I have so many tutorials just trying to emulate it. Now, if you're not familiar with the Virus, it's a digital synthesizer that was released originally in 1997. It got a lot of revisions, and the last one was released in 2008. In Psytrance music, it's famous for its FM sounds. Check this out. It's also famous for its glassy leads and grain oscillators. And it's also famous for its comp filter. Listen to this. But really, the virus is way more than that. It's one of the very first digital synthesizers that offered so much flexibility and possibility sound design wise right from the very first edition in 1997. Now, the Iris is the DSP emulation of the TI-2, so you'll get a bit more than what the very first edition, the Virus A, offered. We have 3 oscillators, a couple of filters with different flavors, including analog ones. We have 4 envelopes, we have 3 LFOs, a really complex modulation matrix with 6 slots. Each has 1 source and 3 destinations. We have the famous arpeggiator of the Virus. FX-wise, we have the famous chorus of the Virus with several flavors, the famous phaser. If you've listened to Psytrance, you know these effects has been used a lot in the style. Of course, we have the filter bank in here with the famous comp filter, really simple equalizer, and of course a delay and a reverb. These were sounds from my Virus Psytrance Volume 1 preset bank for the Virus TI. And actually, I've made a lot of tutorials on this channel, sound designing with the Virus. Actually, the very first tutorial I've made on this channel was using the Virus A synthesizer. So I'm going to leave a playlist in here with all of the tutorials I made for the Virus. But for now, this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. I'll see you in the next one.